The forest that eats man. We're five guys, five idiots standing at the edge of the world, with nothing but our backpacks and cheap bravado. It started as a joke over beers. Let's teach the girls, hit Germany, camp out in that famous forest. What's it called? The Black Forest? Drink, roast marshmallows, scare ourselves, stupid. But jokes turn into plans. And plans turn into reality when you are bored and stupid enough. We landed in Munich on a grey wet morning. It felt right, the kind of damp that sticks to your skin and makes you feel like you are in someone else's story. The hotel was clean but soulless, a holding pen for tourists. We stayed just long enough to dump our gear, grab a map, and argue about routes. The locals, they laughed at us. But not the kind of laugh that makes you feel welcome, more like they were trying to hide something. Don't go too deep, said an old man at the gas station, shaking his head. His hands trembled when he handed me my change. The forest has a way of keeping what it likes. You believe that superstitious crap, Kyle said, lighting a cigarette. He was the loud one, always ready to call bullshit. But the warnings kept coming. The bartender wiped a glass, stared at us like we were already ghosts. Plenty of strong men go into that forest, he said. Plenty of them never come back. We laughed it off. Of course we did. We were five big dumb guys in our 20s, drunk on youth and bad decisions. Warnings felt like challenges, and we were not about to go back down. The forest swallowed us whole. It wasn't just the trees, the way they loomed, ancient and judgmental. It was the silence. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. Like the world outside didn't exist anymore. By the time we set up a camp, by a little stream, the only sounds were the crackle of fire and the occasional snap of twig in the dark. We joked about werewolves and witches. Matt, the smartest, told a story about the German folk legend, how the forest used to be the hunting grounds for gods, the kind that didn't like to share. But then came the whispering. At first, I thought it was wind, except it wasn't. It was voices, low, guttural, speaking a language I couldn't understand. Did you hear that? Matt asked, stepping out of his tent. Nope, Kyle said, pulling his sleeping bag over his head. Go to sleep, man. You're spooking yourself. But the whispers didn't stop. By morning, we were all on edge. No one admitted they heard it too, but I could see it in their faces. The second day, we pushed deeper. The map didn't make sense anymore. Path we swore there were not. Landmarks vanished. This forest is messing with us, Jake muttered. His machete hacking through the undergrowth. Then Matt disappeared. It was so casual it didn't even feel real. 1 second he was walking behind me, laughing about something, the next he gone. We backtracked, shouting his name until our voices were raw. All we found was his backpack propped neatly against a tree. No tracks, no sign of struggle, just silence. That night we camped on a clearing. I didn't want to stop, but the dark came fast, and we had no choice. That's when we saw them, symbols. They carved into the ground around our fire pit. Circles within circles, lines intersecting at odd angles. None of us had carved them. Maybe some weird artist was here, Kyle said, but his voice shook. I didn't sleep. None of us did. The next day I spotted it, a massive ancient tree that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Jake froze when we saw it. Did you see that? He whispered. Carved into the bark was a figure, human-shaped, too human. It looked like Matt. We stumbled back, muttering prayers, or curses. I didn't even know anymore. The forest felt alive. This breathed hot on our necks. "We need to get out of here," Kyle said. He was laughing now. None of us were. By the time night fell again, it wasn't just whispers anymore. Shadows moved at the edges of our vision. Tall, spindly shapes that didn't belong to an animal I knew. "They're watching us," Jake said, waiting. Then came the sound, a low, guttural growl, followed by a screech so high-pitched it felt like I would split my skull. We ran. I don't know how long. The forest twisted and turned, laughing at us, leading us in circles. Kyle tripped, and when I turned back to help him, he was gone. Just gone. Jake grabbed me by the arm, his face pale as death. "We're not getting out of here," he said, "unless..." Jake stopped running. He pulled out his pocket knife and started carving something into his palm, a symbol like the ones we would see on the ground. "They told me," he said, "if one stays, the rest can go." "Jake, what the hell are you talking about?" I shouted. But he was already running back towards the shadows, screaming, waving his arms like a madman. The shapes followed him. I don't know how, but I found the road. Maybe Jake's sacrifice worked, or maybe the forest just got bored of me. Kyle's car was there, but it looked like I had been sitting for decades. Moss covered the tires, and the windows were cracked. I climbed inside anyway, too scared to think straight. When I got to the nearest town, I stumbled into a bar, wide-eyed and shaking. The bartender stared at me, then at the newspaper on the counter. "That's you," he said, pointing to the front page. The headline read, "5 tourists vanished in Black Forest, 1974. And then we were, me, Kyle, Matt, Jake, and Danny, smiling like idiots in a photo I didn't remember taking. I made it out, or maybe I didn't. Sometimes at night, I hear the whispers again. Sometimes I see shadows moving just out of reach. The forest didn't let me go. Not really. It just let me pretend.